Okay.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Mike Does Front End Stuff. Yeah, so I'm here again with my host, or my co-host, James Robinson. James, how are you doing?
I am doing great. It's only 8 in the morning, which is early for me, but I have a lot of caffeine, so we're gonna get through this.
Web Dev Dan is here. Welcome, Dan. It's like super late for Dan. I really appreciate you staying up to pop into the stream. I'm glad you finally made it for one of these live. Hope you get stick around, but I know it's like extremely late for you. Cool. So why don't we get right into it? I guess like James has a bit of a special one today, I think. So why don't I zoom in a little bit and get the prompt?
Well, wait.
Yep.
No, I've got to lead into this properly.
Okay.
This is a front end interview. You don't do things your way, Mike.
Yeah.
The interviewer's way.
Correct.
So, okay. For people who are joining us for the first time, yeah, I'm here to interview Mike for a hypothetical front end job. Kind of goes like this. I present him a coding challenge, which I published just this morning on Front End Eval. We review how he does. I jump in if necessary with hints, and then at the end we go over a bit of feedback on how he did, and then just like open Q&A. But throughout the interview, feel free to throw questions about how he's doing something. Fine with interruptions. It kind of keeps him on his toes, so I like that. But yeah, that's kind of how we're going to do it. We've gone through a bunch of these questions so far. We've done rolling dice, crypto converter, analog clock, all interesting ones. I think they're all on YouTube now, so you can check those out. But today we're going for a special one. So, Mike, have you heard of the game Wordle?
What's that? No, I've definitely heard of the game Wordle. It's quite popular these days.
Could you just very quickly just bring it up just to show anyone, the one person in the world who might not have seen it or
sure. That is not right.
That is not right.
This is like the most annoying thing about Wordle is you have to Google it and click on the first link.
Yeah, it's a very specific site. So yeah, this is Wordle. It's a new word game where each day you get presented with like a different word. Everyone gets the same word that day, and it's kind of like a game called Mastermind where you need to guess the word by you type in a word. If you type in like wary, whatever, or where's, then it'll give you feedback on which letters were correct. So if you get a yellow letter, it means that letter is in the word, but it's in the wrong place. And if you get a green letter, it means that letter is in the word and it's also in the correct place. So you obviously want to get like all green letters. Obviously, I'm not going to expect you to recreate all of Wordle in 1 hour. That would be insane. But I am going to ask you to recreate a lot of the core gameplay in 1 hour.
Okay.
This is definitely a hard question. So I'm very interested to see how you do. You can go back to the prompt now. It's a bit wordy. You can skip the beginning bit. That just goes over the rules of the game, which you know. The second section is requirements. Then there's a bit of there's a mock-up there that I threw together. That kind of gives you shows you the core aspect of like what you're creating. So it's really, you can forget about like the really nice input where you don't have an input field. We're going to make that easier by giving you a text box that you can enter into, and then it gives you feedback. Don't need to worry about that keyboard at the bottom. That could be a bit complicated. There is still a lot of challenges in this, I won't lie. But we've also given you 2 APIs that you can use to make things a bit easier. You go down to the bottom, I'll give you a bit of detail on these 2 API endpoints. And those are available to anyone if they want to try this question again. That gives you the word of the day, which you could just get with a GET request. Wasn't able to see what the word of the day is. Maybe that's good. And this one is it's a post endpoint, which basically just tells you, is this word in the dictionary or not? It's not, it's not validating it against the solution. Just, is this a valid 5-letter word? And that's really it. So yeah, how about you have a think about how you're going to do this? Feel free to throw any questions my way for clarifications. There's definitely some edge cases to consider, but we'll see if you can pick those up. So
great.
And
great. Just checking out the chat a little bit. Woo Wordle. Yes, I love this game. I feel like it's really, like, I don't know how they've managed to make it so viral. Like, I think it's like just the very easy share functionality. Everyone knows what it means. Hey Brian, yes,
the scarcity too.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, like only being able to play it once. It doesn't make it saturated. And Ben D. Myers is here. Appreciate you coming out, Ben. This is a difficult challenge. I'm confident Mike will be able to do. I am not actually fully confident. Like building a game in the web browser, I think is like not super easy. So let's get into it. And let me think through. I've just been thinking through like a couple different things that we could do. So I think some of the harder parts will be the gameplay loop and tailless. So some of the harder parts will be the gameplay loop, like just thinking through like checking for victory or loss conditions. I've actually never lost Wordle. So do you know what happens, James, when you lose Wordle?
I intentionally lost, and yeah, if you get to the end, it just tells you what the word of the day is.
Okay.
You can do it in well, you can do it there or in incognito. Yeah, if you get to the
end.
Oh,
I'm in incognito. Just... I would never sully my stats by intentionally losing this game. Tangy. Wow, that's a really unceremonious loss. Okay, cool. I think I can get through the core part of this. I'm just trying to like, I'm sure you'll have a lot of extensions for me. I think like as I think through what makes Wordle difficult to implement, I feel like it's this on-screen keyboard and some of the UI affordances, like typing in the word has populates one thing per tile. There's actually not even an input on this page. So Ben is here. I'm sure he has comments about the accessibility of Wordle. I'm not sure. Like, I would love to hear from you, Ben, if you've done a accessibility analysis on how accessible Wordle is. But yeah, let's get into it. I am pretty confident that I'm gonna want to use React. There's a lot of state in here, and yeah, I'm just pretty sure that like that is gonna give me a better experience of building this. So how I got some feedback last time that even the size that I had was too small, so I'm gonna make it even bigger this time.
We don't all have your superhuman eyesight.
Yes. All right, how are we doing on the size here? Let's just pop open the file and see. How's the font size?
For me, it's okay. If anyone has an issue and wants it bigger in chat, please let me know.
Oh my god, this is too big. All right, I'm gonna do this size, and hopefully people can complain if it's bad. Sir Trin says, found me through Scrimba. Thank you. Thanks for dropping by. And Emma says, looking forward to seeing this. Alice says something very different than what I can read. Oh, there's a lot of stuff I can't read in there. All right, great. Okay, so let's break this down. So I'm going to need to create the input, and like obviously I'm gonna put aside the UI. I think the UI is like I just the words will be, I think, just like in a grid. And I'm just thinking through how I'm gonna do this. So yeah, I think like I said, the state is gonna be the hard part. And so basically keeping track of my previous guesses, and displaying them on the screen using React. So I'll just render them on the screen in this format. And I think each guess will not just be the word that I input. So when I input something, I'm gonna be inputting a 5-letter word. Oh, sorry, I have like my crisp thing here. So I'm just gonna be inputting a 5-letter word. And I'm going to actually turn that into an array of characters, and each of those characters will have, I'm going to tag it with whether it's correct or not, like whether it's in the word and in the wrong place, or in the word and in the right place. I'll have to find some way to represent that in some kind of object. So it'll be the character and that bit of information, whether it's correct. And that will determine how I render it on the screen. And I think that'll be it. Like, I think that is the hard part, really, kind of like rendering this, like doing the checking to see if, like basically checking to see like if the characters are correct and in the right place. That is going to be hard, and then like actually rendering that to the page, that is also going to be hard. So that's where I'm anticipating on to run into difficulty, and then doing the victory conditions at the end, just making sure that like every time I submit the word, I am checking to see if you won or lost. So that's my plan. And the flow of the game will go: I input the word, I do the check, or sorry, I like go through each character and assign the correctness status to it, and then I store it in my guesses, and React should like take care of the rest. It should render it properly. Like I'll set it up so that it renders properly, and that's kind of my plan. Any thoughts on that? Was I fairly clear on what's going on?
Yeah, I think that was a good breakdown, and good job thinking of where the hard parts are up front as well, where you could potentially get tripped up. Anyone else has got an interview coming up, then yeah, take 5 minutes, depending on the complexity of the interview, up front to break down like this is the order of like how I'm going to tackle this, kind of like Mike did, just to get your brain sorted so you don't fall down a rabbit hole later on.
It also helps your interviewer like understand what you're doing. Like if you when you start typing, it's clear to you what's going on because you've thought through the plan in your head, but it might not be clear to your interviewer, and it'll help them understand at least like if you're doing something weird, it'll help them understand like what you're up to and like why that's weird, and like it'll help them like get you back on the right track if they're inclined to do that. Okay, so let's start by creating, and again, I'm going to be doing this in TypeScript. I think you'll rarely be doing TypeScript in your interviews, but I think it'll help kind of clarify a little bit of like what I'm thinking in terms of like how I structure the data. So I am going to create a character type. So this is going to be essentially, so I'm gonna create a guess interface as well, which is going to be an array of characters.
I love how once again you're trying to be star student by doing it in TypeScript and strongly typing everything.
So
probably
this
wouldn't
is
recommend to most people you do this in an interview.
Yeah. So this is going to be a 1 character string. And this is going to be correct place. I'm going to call it yellow and green for lack of a better, like, yeah, like even to describe this, I think is very, very difficult. So I'm going to call it yellow and green for now. I'll come back to this if I have better ideas. Okay, so I'm going to create a state here, equals use state, and this is going to start as an empty object, but it's going to be an array of guesses. I'll call this previous guesses. And every time I enter stuff into my input, which I'll create here, I'm going to process this input essentially and like run it against the word, and I will check I'll check each character and see if it's yellow or green, and I'll store that as a guess in my guesses array. So I'm going to I'm just going to call this input for now. Oh, also, this is not how this works. And this is value input on change. Set input target value. Okay, so let's just check if that is working. Great.
Nice. We have a nice control input.
Yeah, so I'm going to actually set this to the capital version of this just to be more like Wordle. And I'm going to style this in a little bit. Great.
You make that a little bit
Yes,
bigger.
I will do that.
UI.
You can't see this minuscule input.
I'm trying, Mike.
And I'm going to set this max length. I believe I can do 5 here, and that will prevent me from typing more characters than I need to. Great. I will then, yeah, so now I'm going to actually fetch the word from the backend. James, I'm actually a little concerned. Did we set the cores stuff for the fake input?
We're about to find out.
Okay. Let's actually just find out in console. It is working. Great. And the word is great. So we're in great shape.
Nice.
See what I did there?
That was perfect.
Sorry everyone. Sorry everyone. Okay, so this is I'm gonna set the today's word. And this is going to be a string or null, and it's going to start as null. And if I haven't fetched a word yet, I'm not going to render anything. So I would normally do like a loader here, but I am going to not do that. So I just want to make this async and do dot then response dot text. And so this is the word, that today's word, the word. Let's see if that works. This has to start as null. Oh, I need to return null. If anyone has any questions about this, let me know. But it looks like that's not working. Oh, if not today's word. Okay, so, and I'm just gonna render the word here. This would be a really bad Wordle game if that were the case, but okay, so we're fetching the word from the back end. I'm actually going to get rid of this like async stuff because this is just be easier to show. I think it's more complicated to do that. This goes away. And I need to do a void here because ESLint will complain. Okay. So again, this should render the word. That was just the same thing as last time. Oh, that's not right. All right. Any questions coming up in the chat, James? I'm not really paying attention to it right now.
Who we got? Duran, Nicole. Is it cool if I throw this up to the 100 devs folks?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I have absolutely no problem with that. That'd be fantastic. The more the merrier. And Tech Rally says 23 people watching. No pressure, Mike.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine if every interview was like this?
Just, I know, just
20, 30 yes. people just watching you over your
shoulder. And like judging me because I say I know how to code.
Yeah. And you never make your screen readable.
I know. I'm sorry. Hold on.
On the console.
Wait, why is my CSS not loading it? Oh, it's because I'm not importing it. Also, get rid of this responsive stuff. I don't need that. My CSS isn't loading. It's so hard to work with text when it's this big. Okay, it is loading. It's just I'm zoomed in so much that this looks like it's yeah. So zoom max was 400.
Okay.
Yeah. Ever since you told me how many people were watching, I'm like way more nervous.
I'm sorry. It's all right. Everyone's gone. It's just
okay, thank you.
And,
thank you. Again, I am styling using tags. This is not normally recommended, but I'm just doing it for interview purposes. Okay, so I'm actually going to put this in a form, and I'm going to handle the input, the submit event in something called check word. Check input. That's not a great name. I'm not happy with a lot of the names I'm coming up with, but I'm just going pretty quickly and going to try to do this as fast as possible. I need to close this. I noticed there was no submit button on the thing, James, but I will need to. I'm going to add that for accessibility purposes.
Sounds good.
So as always, need to prevent default here. The form event. So this again, people like I went over this last week, but for people who weren't here, this prevent default is pretty much always needed for submit handlers on forms. Otherwise, it'll do the default form handler, which is to essentially look like it refreshes the page. So people rarely use forms like this in React, so always use prevent default. And I'm just going to check to see if this is working. I'm just going to see if just pressing enter will work. I'll work on the submit button a little bit later. Great. So there's my input. And when I hit enter, so I'll add the submit button later. I'll just add it now, so don't forget. Play flex 1. And then I'll add the submit button. That didn't do what I wanted because I didn't wrap this in the input container. Looks like it was for other reasons. Okay, I'm not gonna get hung up on this. It's just like my CSS isn't like loading in. Oh, it's because I didn't save it. This is some real senior eng stuff going on here.
This is exactly the kind of thing you gotta be aware of in interviews. It's very easy to make stupid mistakes, which you then get stuck on for 5 minutes, which can be like 10% of the whole interview.
Also, this is grid gap and not grid grap.
Really?
Another thing, yes.
I thought it was grid grab.
Everyone thinks it's a common misconception. But yes, everyone makes typos. Everyone forgets to click save. Very common. Okay, so I am actually going to do a little bit of sanitization too. Change handle input change. I'm actually gonna like make this a whole thing. Damn it. Do you remember the TypeScript type?
Oh man, not off the top of my head. This is
here we go.
So Lindsay in Dev asks, is it natural to go back and forth between React and CSS? Is there an advantage to doing it concurrently? My take on this is everyone has their own different way of doing it. I prefer to get the core functionality done unless styling is like a major part of the question. I kind of focus on like, what are they really asking for here? Like, if I can only get like half of it done, what's the half I think will be most critical? For me, usually that's getting the core functionality. Also because I get hung up on styling a bit too much and trying to like make everything pixel perfect. I think Mike has a different approach, which is kind of going back and forth between the two. You want to elaborate on that, Mike, or are you too?
It is purely, it's actually not good. It's purely for the purposes of this interview question format that I'm styling. It's because I don't, I should be better about doing it more the way that I do it in an interview. But I would definitely recommend just focusing on the core functionality before kind of moving on. Even this thing I'm doing right now, which is like basically stripping out anything that's not a letter, should probably be saved for the end, and I'm gonna do a better job of doing that kind of thing in the future. Yeah, so this just prevents people from, oh, it didn't work. Oh, it's because I'm not using this. But I'm gonna come back to this as like an extension later on if this continues to not work. That didn't work.
As an FYI, Mike, apparently your audio level is significantly higher than me.
Okay.
Could just be that I'm not as caffeinated as you and you're talking a lot louder. We may never know.
I'm gonna adjust the levels a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good way of saying I'm too loud, right, Dave? Oh, my brother is here. Appreciate you joining, Dave Chensky. But yes, I've now adjusted the audio a little bit, and I'll try to talk a little bit quieter as well.
Awesome.
Okay, so I'll come back to this later. You can type in like random gibberish in here and spaces and stuff like that and punctuation, so and numbers. So we'll want to limit that later. But I assume, James, since that wasn't part of the interview prompt, that's outside the scope of the interview.
Yeah, we can talk about that at the end.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so then I'm going to check against today's word. Okay, so this is one of the hard parts that I'm going to need to do. So I'm going to need to convert the input into a guess. So input is a 5-character string. Guess is an array of 5 characters. These are all like really poorly named. I'm not happy about any of these names because I have an interface with character, and then inside it has a property of character. So I'm trying to figure out if there's a better name, but again, like I'm gonna worry about that later. So okay, the way that I'm thinking about this is I'm going to create a hash of the word. So also, James, I have a question, and this is like, it seems pretty rare in Wordle for us to have multiple of the same letter. Like
interesting question.
There was the one from yesterday that was a brutal. I almost failed. Yeah, so I'm curious, like, how do we want to handle double letters?
That's a great question. The word yesterday, I believe, was Abby.
Yes.
And I got that on like the very last one as well. So the way the Wordle handles it is if a character, if you've got like 2 repeat letters, so in the case of Abby, if you have a B in the correct position, then that should override a letter that's in the like a correct letter in the incorrect position. I'm trying to think of another example. So if you had Abby and you submitted, I guess, something beginning with B, but only a single B in it, then it should be yellow.
Yeah.
There's no feedback to say, no, there is more than one B in this. Like, right. You have to figure that out for yourself.
Right. But if you submitted something with 3 Bs, I think only 2 of them would get marked with colors, right?
That's right. Yeah. So an example is, say the word was north, right? North.
Yeah.
And you submitted something with 2 N's, right? Right. If you had one at the beginning, which was an N, and then at like one at the end, which is an N, the first N would be green because it's in the correct position. The last N should be gray because there's only one N, and you've already found it's in the correct position. So you pick that up there. That is a very tricky edge case, but it should be handled.
Okay. I am going to ignore double letters for now, and then I'm going to come back and try and figure out how I would approach it. It's actually possible that the approach I have in mind will already handle the double letters, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'm going to attempt it and see if that does a trick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the input. So also, like, I need to check that the input is valid. So I'm going to put a comment in here. I'm going to come back to that later, because for the purposes of like building this, I think it's better for me to be able to put in whatever gibberish I want. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to call this like convert input to get, or yeah, convert input to gets. So I'll just move this outside the function because I don't want it cluttering up the function, or sorry, my component. So I'm going to call this input. I'm going to call this the correct word, or I'll call it today's word. And I'll just, let's guess equals convert input to guess, and pass this in. What's going on here? That's annoying. Okay. I'll deal with that later. Oh, it's because, yeah, no, that's gonna be fine. Okay, so I'll just make sure that I'm getting both these things, and then we'll come back to it. Great. And I'm going to uppercase the word as well. Or I guess I'll downcase the input in here. And the valid word from the API will always be lowercase, right, James?
Yes, that's correct. So yeah, when you hit the backend, the word of the day is always lowercase. The validation endpoint actually accepts either and downcases it, but probably easier if you just downcase before that.
Okay, so I'm gonna turn today's word into a hash of each character in the string. So this will basically, and this is a record of a string, record of a string, a Boolean, and this will, or actually this will just be true. Yeah, because I would normally turn this into a count. And so what I'm doing is basically I'm just turning this into a map that says, does this today's word have like an A in it? It'll basically allow me to ask that question. Does today's word have an A in it at all? And that will help me decide the yellow. But in order to decide whether it's green, I will just compare the index of the input. Like I'll go through each input index and compare it to the same index in today's word. And if it's a match, then it's green. And otherwise, it's I'll check in today's word hash if it exists in the word at all. And that's just a little bit more performant than just like looping through the string and checking if the letter's there at all. So any questions about that?
Sorry to interrupt your flow, Mike, but I just want to say we have a celebrity in your midst. Watching over your shoulder now, it's Danny Thompson.
Dang, Danny Thompson is here. Thank you for showing up, Danny. I hope you'll agree by the end of this this stream that I have impeccable code quality, like I promised. Okay, wow, yeah, and thanks for showing up. Okay, so does that make sense, James?
Yeah. Before we carry on, just very quickly for anyone who's just joined, we're making we'll call it a Wordle clone. It's not really a clone; it's a very cut down version of the great game that you should play called Wordle. Mike is attempting to do this under an hour. He's for some reason doing it in TypeScript, but he's doing a very good job so far.
Yeah, this is like I was already intimidated. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this goes.
Is this Shashi as well? We have online.
Yeah, Shashi's also here. Tech Rally's here. A lot of my Twitter heroes are here. So don't screw it up. Okay, so I'm going to turn input into an I and a character. So I'm just going to turn input into an array here, and then do call dot entries on this. So what this does is iterable is not an array type or a string type. I don't think this is going to work either. Interesting. I might need to do like a for loop. I thought that just like I thought that this would like convert a string to an array. It does. So I don't know why this isn't working.
Go with what you know.
Yeah.
Don't fall down a rabbit hole.
Yeah. But how will people know that I'm great at coding if I don't do those fancy tricks?
You've always got the TypeScript.
if I don't have those fancy tricks. Okay, so this is the character is downcased input of I, and the today's word character. So oh, actually, you know, I actually want to map this because, and then I'll get the index automatically. Oh, but I still need to convert it to an array. What's the best way to convert a string to an array?
Split.
Yeah, you're right. I'm so confused by why this doesn't work. But yes, that split will do it. Thanks, James. And then I'm going to return. So this is going to return an array of guess, or a guess essentially, or sorry. Yeah, it's going to return guess, which is an array of characters. And so yeah, if I do a map here, then it's going to be character I, and I can use that I to check the character inside of today's word. So I'm going to call this.
We're all on the same page here. You're going through the submission, the word that they inputted, splitting it into an array, and then you're mapping over each character to determine if it's is it in the correct position.
Yes.
Purely.
Yes.
Okay.
Right now I'm only checking if it's in the correct position. Yeah. And then I will check in a second if it's in the correct if it's essentially like the way that we're referring to it is green and yellow, right? So I'm gonna be checking if it's green first, and then I'll be checking if it's yellow in a second. So let me just see if this works. I don't know why this is all
for now. We're completely ignoring the it's a correct letter, but it's in an incorrect position.
Yes, that's right. So I'm just checking if it's in the correct place. Why is this happening? This is when it's bad idea to use TypeScript.
It was a bad idea as soon as you started, but carry on.
I'm gonna just log the output of this. I think this will still compile, but I'm curious like what's going on here. Okay, this is, yeah, okay, I got it. Thanks, TypeScript. It was actually warning me that I had a serious problem. Okay, so if I type great, I should get all greens here, right? Yep. So these are all green.
Nice.
I'm gonna convert today's word into uppercase and compare the input to that, because I want to display them as uppercase because I think it looks better. So I'm going to do that instead of what I'm doing right now, because I would have to just uppercase it again later. Okay. Okay, so then I haven't created this hash yet, so this is going to look like, and so I think like the final solution for this is going to involve a count and making sure that so again, I'm ignoring duplicate letters right now, but I will need to come back and like take care of that later. And so this one is gonna be just a Boolean for now, being like, does this letter exist in the word at all? And if it does, then this is going to be true. So I'm just going to do it to show you what I mean. So yeah, this will basically populate the hash with So for instance, like today's hash would be like G true, R true, E true, etc. Right? And that's what today's hash would look like. So and then if it's not green, then we would check if the character is in today's word hash. Character, and then we would populate this. So if we enter some permutation of great, and again, I'm not checking to see if yellow is undefined here, which is good. I think we want to convert this to a Boolean. But this is like definitely wrong. So let's see what's going on.
Shouldn't the
should be true.
E where you put in there should have been true.
Yeah, it should be true. So let's figure out what's going on here. Starting to get more nervous. Yeah, so this is all true. I'm confused about why this is not working. Some real big brain debugging here with console.logging. Don't let anyone shame you for console.logging. Oh, it's because these are all lowercase. And I'm actually going to just like convert everything to uppercase when I receive it. And that'll just make things easier, because that's what's tripping me up here. Great. That's all true, and then these should all be yellow except for the A, which is interesting. Why is that true? That is
go back down again.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, A is green. A is green. Yeah, because it's in the right place.
So yeah, that's what you want, right?
Yep. I am in great shape here. Okay, then I'll need to render the guess. So yeah, I'm gonna just set this guess to set previous guesses. Or I'm gonna call this set guesses equals guesses. So I want to append this to guesses, but I don't want to create. I don't want to just push it. Sorry, this is previous guesses. So I'm going to basically be pushing this new guess onto previous guesses. Sorry, I need to get rid of this TypeScript issue. It's a really dumb rule. Okay, so I need to create a new guesses array, because you don't want to mutate the previous guesses array in React. You always want to create something new on top of it, and the way that you do that is a spread thing. So so this should create a new previous guess. So I'm going to then render these guesses onto the page below the input. And that is going to be another hard part of this problem. So I'm going to create a guess. This sucks because I have a name conflict here, because I want to call this a guess, but I don't really know what to call it. I'm going to call this a guess component. I never namespace my components like this, but it'll just make it easy to do for now, and I don't want to run out of time. Okay. I'm just going to return a div that says guess for now, just to make sure this is working. And then we should see we should see 5 guesses populate after this. Or, you know, every time I hit enter, you should see a new string guess, just to make sure that's working. And I do this kind of thing a lot, as you can see, like where it just like basically make sure that it's like a sanity check essentially. How
You do a React component?
Is it not?
No, you go ahead. You carry on. Ignore me.
I'm worried now. Okay, so every time I hit this, yeah, great. And so each of these is going to be, I'm actually just going to use Flexbox for this. I don't think I need to use grid, because each one will just be in its own row. And so I don't think I need to like use grid to like be like, oh, each of these letters is whatever. So I'm going to start there and then we'll go from there. So yeah, I'm going to follow good practice like we were just talking about and just use I'm going to call this class guess, but I'll call this like a tile, I guess. So for each letter, or so for each character in guess, I'm gonna just so these are characters. So for each character in here, we're gonna render one tile. And I think this will work. And I just need to style them after, and I need to add the class name. Nope, this will not work because I think prettier ruined something for me. No, actually, okay, that does work. Okay, broken. Let's see what's going on. Oh, right. So character. This is why naming is important, because I named the outer thing character and the inner thing is also character, which sucks. So character, if you recall, is an object that has a character inside of it. So again, that's why naming is bad. I'll come back and revisit it at the end. Great. So each tile, so yeah, the guess is going to be display flex. And that should position it next to each other. And then each tile, let's see what's going on here. All right, James, what are the specs for the tiles?
We don't have exact specs. That's why it's a mock-up and not a Figma. But say they should be, we'll call it like 20 pixels by 20 pixels, centered letters, background gray, yellow or green. Just make it look nice as you always do, Mike.
Okay. I think I need something a little darker.
Oh, and a little bit of a border as well. We'll throw that in.
Yeah.
Everyone likes the border.
Yep. I think I'll just do a grid gap here. Grid gap again. And then margin bottom pixels. Actually, I think I want to display flex as the inside too. And then in the input container itself, I want a little bit of margin below this. And I'll come back and center it. later.
That's fair.
But yeah, all right, we're getting somewhere. And I'm gonna make this a little bit darker. And okay, so now I need to assign the colors to this. So I'm going to make this template string, and if character dot green. I actually don't know if this works. It looks like it's not working. We'll see. Yeah, I'll have to do tile green or empty string, tile yellow or empty string. It's really ugly, but it's fine. Okay, so tile green. Just override these. Background color. I'm gonna just grab the ones that Wordle uses. I didn't get any of them right here, but this is too hard with that. Okay, here we go. That's too annoying. I'll just call this yellow.
I definitely won't judge you. Yeah, you can go for yellow. I definitely won't judge you if it's a little bit off on the hue.
It's gonna be really loud. Oh my god, it's blinding. Okay. I can't do it.
I'm gonna judge you a little bit.
I can't do it. I can't do it. I have to use this. I have to figure out how to get this puke color. I don't know how to.
A 0 on accessibility.
Yeah, I had to. I have no idea how to. I'm actually exposing some ignorance. I do not know how to get the value of this color. Like I had to go to the computed tab and then like copy paste this. Like do you know of a better way? It actually really annoys me that like CSS variables I can't see like the color anymore from here. Yeah.
Yeah, I usually either go into the computer tab or I actually have an extension which is like a color picker.
Oh, okay.
Just, drop it from anywhere.
Yeah. I'm in incognito, so I don't expose my emails like I do every week. Okay, so yeah, that's looking pretty good. Yeah, if I do this, it should be all green. Green. The green is fine.
Go back a second.
Yeah.
How many A's are in grade?
Yeah, no. I'm saying like I have to come back and like fix the issue with the with too many with multiple characters.
Okay. I thought that was you telling me you were done.
Oh no. You crazy? I also haven't like checked the victory conditions and like done any of that. And like also like I can put in like a 4-letter word or like a 1-letter word. So yeah, and then I didn't check whether any of the inputs are valid. So still plenty of work to go. But I would say that the most of the hard part is done. There's one more hard part, which is checking the correct number of characters. There's a lot of chat going on that I'm just missing. I'm sure it's really great. I feel like when we do easier problems in the future, I will be able to engage with the chat a little bit more. But James, I hope you're keeping things
there's a lot of good chat. I'm trying to capture some good questions for the end.
Right, cool.
Danny Thompson has given you the hex value. You want it C4C 16E.
For green?
I think so. I can't visualize hex colors.
16E.
I'm working on it.
Yeah. Are you even a web developer? That's the yellow one.
That's the yellow.
That's the yellow one. Danny, if you could get me the green one too, I'd really appreciate it. Yeah. If you can't translate a hex value into color, are you even a web developer?
I'm never gonna get that sweet fan job.
Okay, great. Okay, I think we're making pretty good time.
Oh, Danny said, can you show the Wordle colors again? So
okay. Oh yeah, I don't have any green anywhere, Danny. That's part of the problem. That's part of the problem.
Oh, okay.
We'll leave it as green.
We'll leave it as green.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Okay. So the hard part is going to be coming back through. Like basically, like the way that I'm thinking about this is, I'm gonna have to keep a count instead of just like a boolean here. So I'm gonna do a number here, and every time that I find the character in this hash, I'm gonna decrease the Boolean for that thing, even if I find a green one. And so I think that will take care of the problem. It's just gonna be a little hard to debug. So I'm gonna see if I can make that work just with like the thing I just described.
Quick interruption, sorry, Mike.
Yes.
Shashi has come in with a win for the green.
Oh, perfect.
508814.
508814.
14. Yeah, that's right.
Dang, look at that.
Beautiful.
Thank you, everyone.
Beautiful.
Audience participation.
Danny Thompson and Shashi helping you with this interview.
Yes. I don't know what I'd do without you guys. Okay, so what I've done here is I basically defaulted this to 0 when I find it, and I will increment the character by 1 every time I so this is just like a little trick to make it so that I don't have to check if it's there, and then if it is, I set it to 1, otherwise I increment it. This is just like a little bit trick. The other way to do this, it's a little bit more like, but I use this all the time in interviews specifically. But the other way to do this is to do something like this. Else, yeah. So I find the way that I've done it a little bit more readable, but to each their own. So that's the alternative method. Okay, so if it's green, I will decrement the hash by 1. Else, and yellow will continue to be false. Else, I will check it. Yeah, so again, check if it's there, and then if it is there, then I will still decrement it by 1. This is probably not the best way to do this, but I think this will work. Nope, it did not work. Oh, actually,
wait,
it kind of worked. Yeah, it did work. Okay,
yeah. G and R correct are in the wrong position, so is the A, and it didn't highlight the other A's.
Yeah, this is great. Looks like I'm pretty good at programming. Wait, that's bad.
So.
That's bad. That's bad.
That is.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happened there for anyone?
Oh, yeah. So yeah, there should only be green T. And I think I need to do 2 passes through the array. One to check that they're all one to check if they're green, and then I need to check again to see if they're yellow. To check any of the remaining ones. Because there's no way for me to know at the beginning that there's a correct placement here. That is a very annoying edge case. So I'm going to do that real quick. Would you like me to do that, James, or would you like me to kind of focus on kind of the other core parts of the problem?
How are we doing on time? We have we're just coming up on 9 a.m. I know, obviously, once again, we started a little bit late. If we're going till 9:30, then we want to leave a bit of time for questions. So how about, because this is a very annoying edge case. So how about you get the core gameplay done first?
Okay.
The
guess timer and the victory conditions and the valid words. Yeah.
And then if we have time, we can come back to the edge case. If not, we'll chat it over.
Okay, sounds good. I loved Danny's question. How many Fang and ex-Fang engineers does it take to figure out a color on a button?
We need more. Bring more.
So I'm going to set this as a constant up here. 6 total guesses that you get. And then I'm going to say at the very top of the page, you have previous guesses, total guesses minus previous guesses dot length, guesses remaining, and I'm gonna not worry about 1 guesses. I'm not gonna worry about the plural here. Hope you don't think less of me. This is not how I style things. I'm just trying to make it look nicer. Oh, that's annoying. I'm not gonna deal with that. No time. Okay, so I'm gonna check that the input's valid. So if input dot length equals 5, or if it doesn't equal 5, I'm gonna return here. And I gave a code readability tip on my Twitter about this, where the other way to do this is to wrap the entire thing in this if else statement or this if statement, but it's better to early return because it makes it the rest of the function a lot easier to read. So if it's not valid, then return this. And like, I think I need to make this async because I need to do a fetch from the valid words thing. So I'm going to do a post, which I do not know how to do by heart. But I'm going to use this endpoint post. I'm going to Google post fetch.
As with most interviews, hopefully most interviews, you are allowed to
Yes.
Google if you cannot remember syntax.
Yes. If you are in an interview where you cannot Google, it's probably not a company you want to work at.
Can you imagine writing this on a whiteboard?
I cannot. Do I just, is the body just, okay, the example request is this. So the word is alien. So the body would be a stringified version of this. And the word is actually input. And somehow Prettier is making that disappear. Okay. And then what is the response? The response is a Boolean. So I'm going to turn this into JSON and then valid. Actually, so I'm going to do is valid. It's just going to be a Boolean. I'm going to log whether it's valid or not. Okay. Let's see. That did not work. It's not looking great.
Don't tell me, okay, so show me again what you posted. This, so for everyone else, this is an endpoint I threw up late last night. It was working. I don't know what Mike did to break it.
Right. So I'm gonna post this. This is a payload.
And this was working last night, Mike. I swear it was.
Okay. Well, let me. Can you link me the word list that we're using? I'll just like dump it in here and check if the word's valid.
It's a heavy word list. Okay, so you're doing a post request. The body stringified. Partial word list because there are about 12,000 words in there.
Okay.
So yeah, won't expect you to add them all.
Let's just say I got that right. Let's just say I got that right. Yeah. Let's just say I did that correctly. Because I think I did this right. So yeah, and then I would only set the previous guesses if it's because yeah, right now I need to actually await this. And then if it's valid, then yeah. So this is how the rest of the, if it's not valid, then we would also early return here. And that's basically how this would go. But right now, like, I think the way that it's working is it would find nothing's valid because it's 500ing when we're hitting the endpoint. So yeah, James, if you have time to debug that now, then that's great. But otherwise, I'm just gonna comment this out and pretend I got it right.
Okay.
Yeah. Always good to tell your interviewer what you got right and wrong.
I will have that fixed later today, one way or another.
Sounds good.
For anyone else that wants to do this question.
So okay, and then I need to check if I've exceeded the number of guesses after I've done this. So if I've like actually this wouldn't even run if that's the case. So I'm gonna just set previous guesses, and then after this I'm gonna use guesses.link to see if I've won or lost, or like if I've won. And also, so I'm gonna check if I've won here. And I'm gonna use a bool, I guess like a has one that has one. I think I would actually like do like a status here, but I'm gonna like this that relies on TypeScript, so I would like probably do a status like you know, running or lost or won. Like I'd probably do a status, because like it doesn't make sense for me to have like I don't like having booleans where the state is impossible. Like it's impossible for me to both win and lose at the same time. And so when that's the case, I tend to like using like a state variable, but like it relies on TypeScript, and I don't like relying on TypeScript. I want TypeScript. Sorry, like I don't like relying on TypeScript for these interview questions, because you're not going to be able to use them during the interview. And so I'm not going to use it. I'm just going to use these booleans. If all these values are true, so actually no, sorry, these are characters. So if every character has character green,
so as a reminder, character green is a character that's in the word and it's in the right place, and yellow is it's in the word but not in the right place.
Oh, this is, I don't need values. Right. So if every character is green, then I've won. And and I'm going to push this guess onto the previous guesses. If if guesses.length equals total guesses, then I've lost. And then I'll just reflect that in the state. So actually, let me just make sure that's true. Just going to log these out. So I've not won or lost. And by the end, I've lost. And if I just press great, then I have won. So
nice.
That is working. So those victory conditions are working, and I'm gonna just say I'm gonna replace this. If I have won, then I'll say I'm gonna remove this, and I will only render this if not has won and not has lost. I'll only render the like I guess like any of this. I'll just say at the top, you win. And if I have lost, then I will say you lost. And the correct word will show up here. Or I'll just display the correct word, because I'm annoyed by the minutia of what I'm doing here. Okay, and then let's see here. That's not working anymore. Why is that? Oh, I need to close this. Not have this here. All right, let's see.
Nice.
Okay, it should replace everything. Including the grid. All right.
Do you really want to get rid of the grid?
Probably not. Okay, so this isn't like perfectly styled, but not bad.
Ooh. What was the didn't you just lose that one? And it told you great.
Yeah, but great is the word.
Oh, yes, great is the word. It's not literally congratulating you.
Yes, that's right. All right, how are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so just reload again, and if you try one, so the word is great, and it tracks like how many guesses you have remaining. That's good. And if you get the word right, then it tells you like you've won. That's good. If you don't get the word right in 6 guesses, then it tells you what the word was. Also good. We are at 12 minutes past 9 PST. I wasn't able to get the endpoint working in that few minutes because I was messing around with Authenticator and trying to log into Heroku. I will get it fixed, so we can ignore the like, is this a word in the dictionary part. Did you want to? We have a couple of good questions and a bit of feedback. We also have the edge case, the pretty nasty edge case of if you submit a word with multiple characters. For example, here. So in this example, the word is great, and only the last T should be green. The first T should have, well, all the rest of the T should be ignored. So what do you think? Do you think you can get this one done in a few minutes, or should we discuss what you could have done and then go over questions?
I can probably get this done.
Is this going to be another like racing to the finish line, and somehow you still do it in like under 5 minutes?
Yeah, I mean that's why people tune in, right?
That's true. Okay, well, I'm gonna set my stopwatch again.
Yeah. So and Danny had some comments. Good application regardless of styling. Thank you. I appreciate that. A rave review from Danny Thompson. That's all I need.
2 thumbs up.
All right. So once again, yeah, this is the test case, right? So this needs to have only the green character at the end. And yeah, so what I'm gonna do is I feel like this implementation is pretty clean. This like map just turning the input array into an array of characters. But I'm going to have to get rid of it. I need to do something else. So I'm going to turn this into a guesses array. And I'm going to need to loop through this array twice. So
Andy Thompson says 10 out of 10 would hire Mike Chen.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
That's real praise.
I think you should print and frame.
Yeah, I know. I'm actually gonna put that on my LinkedIn. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna check if it's green. If it's green, I'm gonna insert this into insert this character into.
So just very quickly walk us through your thought process.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I'm going to. Why is this? Okay. Is this? Yeah. This is entries. So I'm going to loop through twice, like I said. So the first time I'm going to see if everything's green, if each character is green, right? And then because I have this hash of the number of times each character appears in the word, I'm still going to do this decrement. So I'm going to decrement this value in the hash. And then, so by the time I loop through again to check if everything's yellow, that t will already be 0. And that way it won't double count the t. And if I go back to my previous implementation, which I'm going to do right now because I need to actually copy that implementation, you'll see that like, basically starting at the beginning of the word, going to the end of the word. At the beginning, I don't know whether later words will be green, but like the green is the most important thing, right? So I always need to check if it's green. And the reason it wasn't working is because I wasn't doing that first, even though that is the most important thing. So the green like essentially overrides the yellow earlier on in the string. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, it sounds like a good approach.
All right. Something is wrong with the implementation though. I'm going to comment this out real quick and fix the green part. Why does this keep happening? I'm just gonna do it for each. I'm so confused by this.
Don't know. Just go for each. Again, won't judge you in the slightest.
Yeah. Okay. Once again, I'm like very unhappy with my naming.
We can talk about that at the end, don't worry.
So something is going on here where it's expecting me to... this is not an array. This is not an array of guesses. It's actually just a guess. Great. Okay, so TypeScript, stop complaining. And then I'm going to go through again. Oh yeah, and then, so if it is green, like I said, then I need to decrement today's word hash. Okay, and then I'm going to go through again.
Shashi says, Shashi says that you should never need to interview for a company ever again. Just submit these code challenges as proof that you can code.
That if only it worked that way, Shashi. Like technically, none of us who have been working in the industry should be having to do any of these for interviews, right?
That's
like,
a whole other conversation.
How is it possible that James or you or I have been doing this for 10 years and don't know how to write code? So yeah, it's a whole other conversation, like James said. And then, okay, so for each character, so I will need to check if what's going on here? Type void is not assignable to guest. Okay, this is not what I want to do. Okay, so I'm gonna repeat a lot of this logic to say, if so, yellow will be the boolean. So this will be const yellow, and I'm actually gonna skip this. Another early return here. If guess already appears, or sorry, if like one of the characters already appears in guess, because that means that it's green. So I don't need to do, I don't need to run a check again and actually risk overriding the pre-existing value. So I'm gonna check if this works. I think this should work, and if so, then I will come back and explain what's going on. Yep. Great. Okay, so once again, I'm looping through twice, once to check if it's green and once to check if it's yellow. And so the logic is roughly the same for each one, except this is like the two loops do pretty much the same thing, but their conditions are different. So the condition for it being green is if it's an exact match for today's word, and if so, then I push this into the guess. And in fact, I'm actually going to order these the same, so just to illustrate that they're really the same. And then wait, I have 3 loops here. Wait, this is these 2 loops are identical. Okay, yeah, don't do that in your review. So yeah, again, I'm going to basically loop through the one to check if they're green. If they're green, I decrement the hash and I create this character inside of guess that has green set as true and yellow set as false. And then for yellow, I do almost the same thing. But I have this guard clause at the top that says, make sure that this character doesn't already exist in guess, because if it does, that means it's green, right? So I'm not overriding this with yellow if it appears again. And then instead of, I'm basically converting today's word hash character. So if it's undefined or 0, it's going to turn into false. And if it's true, then I decrement the word hash similar to the way I did for green, and I assign that character to guess as well. And that pretty much solves that edge case.
That's beautiful. And I forgot to stop it when you actually, it was under 10 minutes. I've got 8 minutes 30 on my stopwatch, but it was definitely less than that.
All right, 9 minutes for questions.
Yeah. Okay, so there were a couple that kind of came up throughout, and then we can talk about like a little bit of feedback, nothing major. So Being Goosey asked, any advice for how to prepare for interviews for mid and or senior positions? I've been tanking all of mine. Any thoughts on this, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would love to know what you're struggling with. Like, what does tanking mean? You know, I think like, it is around like the whole, you know, James just left some comments on deliberate practice and time and skill. It's like really knowing where you're failing and kind of like practicing that particular type of problem yeah. So I think like that's kind of the main thing I think for like with the interview process, there's so many places where things can go wrong. Like, you know, the resume stage, you know, if they're looking at your website, they're not impressed by it, or they go on to, you know, the coding challenge and you're failing that. And so kind of like understanding a little bit more about, like, I'm not sure about your personal case, but I'm wondering what, if you want to leave in chat what you're struggling with, I can maybe try and help a little bit more specifically.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm just gonna shamelessly share a tweet that I sent out about a week or so ago, which is all the different interview types that might come up.
I'm gonna pull it up.
A couple of resources. Yeah, you can pull up for how to prepare. It's very high level, but might maybe point out some things you should focus on.
I'm gonna leave it in chat. And there's going to be a front-end eval post going out today to talk a little bit more about. Okay, you already put it in there. Yeah, so there'll be new posts going out today on front-end eval. So this is kind of like a plug for front-end eval. There's no resources section here, but we'll be sending out a tweet later with a little bit of a more comprehensive version of this. I think this is an awesome cheat sheet, so definitely refer to it when you're doing your interviews. And but we'll send out a bit more of a comprehensive guide later.
Yeah, that'd be great. What else we got here? So Shashi, well, it wasn't really a question, but I think it raised a good question, which was, Mike, this is extremely helpful. This is my worst interview skill. I need to practice being as smooth as you are in figuring out how to get unstuck. So do you have any tips for getting unstuck in interviews? Which I think is, I notice it a lot. You know, that's usually why people hung up on one particular thing and have trouble breaking out of it. And I do often throw lifelines, but you know, they're not always taken. So what are your tips?
Yeah, I think like the one major tip that I could give in this area is do not stop talking. Like even I'm guilty of this sometimes. Like you've had to hear James. James is a very skilled interviewer, by the way. James has probably done possibly more interviews than I have from the other side of the table. And so he's really good at like kind of throwing a lifeline, like you said. And don't stop talking, because if you stop talking and you're just like staring at the screen silently, the interviewer has no idea what you're thinking about. They don't know how you're reasoning through it. Oftentimes talking can help you get unstuck too. It's like kind of the rubber duck principle of like just working through the problem. I would say like kind of that that kind of sums it up, and not panicking. I think like not panicking also comes with like practice and like kind of being in the setting a little bit more often. And I think part of what will help too with that is doing it with like a friend before you kind of do the real thing, because I think that kind of like eases your nerves a little bit, even though there's a bit of that pressure because your friend is watching you. But there's not so much that like it completely like floods your emotions. So yeah, I would say like that's kind of how I do it, is kind of working my way up and talking through the whole thing.
Yeah, 100%. I try to keep saying this to anyone that will listen: is interviewing itself is a skill that has only some overlap with being a software engineer. You need to practice that specific skill set. So for me, like I know you do it in Vim and everything, because a lot of places will allow you to like use your own developer environment. I actually do most of my practice in CodePen, just because that's the one I come across most often. I don't have the niceties of printer and everything, which does suck, but it means that like I don't get flustered when I'm in an interview. And yeah, absolutely, like practice it with somebody else playing the part of an interviewer. So like in the past, like when I was interviewing for jobs, I asked Mike if he can ask, since we just spent an hour on Zoom and just basically did this. And yeah, first couple of times I completely like did terribly, but you get better at it over time. So yeah, practice, 100% practice.
Yeah.
Cool. Another question. Matt 10L asks, any suggestions on how to transition internally from another department support to web dev?
Ooh, that's a good question. Generally, so I've seen people do this, and like I think it's a great idea for the most part. Like see what the not the social mobility, that's a completely different thing, but like the internal mobility looks like within your company. And from what I've seen for a lot of these types of internal transfers, is the interview process is like not as strict, and so that tends to be a good way to kind of get your foot in the door. But it really depends on the company. I would hesitate to give like some blanket advice about this, but I've seen it happen for a lot of companies I've worked at in the past, where like I think Airbnb. James, I don't know if you remember this, but like someone transitioned from like the kitchen staff to an engineer.
I do remember.
Yeah, but like it's also probably not that common, because you and I both know about this person, so that means that she's like famous, which means that it's pretty rare. So yeah, I would say it's going to depend on your company, and I wouldn't pretend to like know exactly what to do in your situation.
Yeah, I can't add a lot to that. I just say make it very clear like what you're trying to do. Hopefully you have some mentor within the company, somebody who can vouch for you, and kind of guide you on a path to that. And hopefully there's some path within the company to make that lateral transition. If there's not, like, great if you can be the first one to forward to that path. But yeah, just kind of make it well known what you're trying to do. Okay, another question. Being Goose said, I avoid in take-home interviews. I complete all the requirements, but they don't ever leave feedback. So I'm kind of clueless there.
That's really frustrating. A lot of companies avoid feedback because of like some very like amorphous lawsuit risk or something like that. I've never heard anyone sue any employer for leaving feedback. But that's tends to be the reason why employers avoid it. I want to, like, it might be a dumb question, but are you asking for feedback? Because for me personally, as a hiring manager, I always get feedback when people ask, and I always give it in kind of like proportionate to how much effort they invest in the interview process. And so if they got really late along, I will give very specific feedback. If they're like really early and like there's just like type a typo on the resume, I'll let them know that there's like, the resume needs work. So I personally always give feedback, but I know that companies don't do that often. And but make sure you ask. Like it won't reflect poorly on you for asking. I think it reflects really, really well on you in case you want to apply again, that you're like really committed to your personal development. Yeah, James, do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, the only other thing I was thinking that if you absolutely can't get feedback from them, then maybe reach out to your personal network, like any friends or any others, more
Yep.
senior software engineers, where
Yep.
you can send it to and say like, I tried to get feedback, didn't. Can you give me any feedback on
Yep.
this? And it's not the best, but it's definitely better than nothing.
Yeah, hang on to the code. Like don't just wipe it after. Especially if you legally allowed to have it. You wrote it, so you should be allowed to have it. So hang on to it and put it up in a GitHub repo. And I don't know, ask Twitter. If you don't have any, like one of your personal network, be like, hey, anyone on Twitter want to review this code?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
WebDev Dan asks, is the main purpose of this type of challenge for the interviewer to see how the candidate works and to get an understanding of how much they know? Or is it make or break to complete the challenge with a working project? I can probably answer this one first. So for me as an interviewer, I want to see how you work. Like a hazing to try and make sure like, okay, I'm giving you this really difficult challenge that like, if you know it in advance, like it's going to be really easy. And if you get through it, then you get the job. Like, I don't really care about that. Like you could get half it done, but if I really like the way you tackle the problem and how you handle getting stuck, like the kind of things that happen on a day-to-day basis in your job, like that's what I'm interested in. Unfortunately, I can't speak for all interviewers. Like you are going to find some that are going to be on the other side,
Yeah.
and they're not good interviewers, and they're almost doing it as a hazing ritual. Like, do you deserve to be here? But you probably don't want to work for those companies anyway. So, hopefully you have a good interviewer who's just looking at how you do the problem, not if you can finish it in time.
Yeah, I've definitely had interviewers that like they ask problems and they conduct the interview in a way that is designed to make them feel smart. So those people exist, but like the vast majority of interviewers I had are like they're like James is saying, where they want to figure out how you work, what kind of teammate you'll be. Like this is like a way to showcase how good of a teammate you are, because you can sit. I'd rather work with someone who is like talks me through their process and like communicates their decision making. And like maybe gets like 80% of the problem right, than someone who sits in silence and solves the entire problem and like doesn't tell me anything about what they're thinking at all, doesn't let me in on the process at all. So I like, personally as an interviewer, I'd much rather someone like be bringing me into their decision making. Yeah, I think like it showcases not only like your technical skill but also your communication.
Yeah, 100%. Danny Thompson has an amazing question. Mike, what is the best way to showcase your technical ability to the interviewer when you are bombing the interview instead of when the interview is going well? Interesting question. I like this.
Yeah,
what do you think?
That's a really good question. I would say if you've followed our advice up until now, you've walked them through the process of how you got stuck, and I think telling them that you're stuck and like here are like maybe the potential angles that you were considering that didn't work out, that would like maybe show a little bit more about kind of your thought process, and maybe they'll be compelled to give you a lifeline. So yeah, I think like it kind of just goes back to the whole talking too much, or talking like a lot more than you think you need to. That whole principle I think like will continue to help you even when you're completely at a dead end. Yeah, James, you have any advice?
Yeah. I was trying to like rack my brains to think what I would do or what I have done in an interview where I've bombed in the past, because I've definitely bombed interviews. And yeah, it definitely helped me to be talking a lot through my thought process. Anytime that I like kind of stop talking and just super focus on the coding and ignore the person next to me is usually the time where I'm like, it started to go downhill. And then I find myself like, oh wait, I haven't said anything in 5 minutes and I haven't made any progress in 5 minutes. And the interviewer is looking uncomfortable. Like, okay, take a step back for a second and then verbalize, like have a chat with the interviewer and say like, okay, sorry, this is kind of like, this is where I'm at. Like, this is the bit that I've got stuck in. And that's the only time I think I've ever done badly in an interview, but managed to get it back on track. So yeah, I'd say that's good advice, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, yeah, I think like me doing this. So I remember my very first interview at Yahoo. It was like the dumbest question, but it was basically multiply two numbers without using the times operator, and I did it using like a loop, and he was like, "That's not fast enough." And I think he wanted me to use some like crazy bit shift thing. It was just like the dumbest question. And I remember I got really stuck. And I think the thing that saved me was just like talking through things the whole time. And I had to, they had to call me back anyway. But like, I remember just like panicking and sweating because this is like my first Silicon Valley interview. I remember just like panicking and sweating, but like really I remember talking the entire time. I was like talking the entire time and thinking through like, oh, you know, maybe I could use a bit shift. And I didn't know how to use a bit shift, but I think it reflected well on me that I was like thinking through like these other like opportunities, and I didn't get the question right. But I think it did save me from flunking the interview.
And how many times since that interview have you used a bit shift in your day-to-day job?
Oh, every time I write a widget for my company dashboard, I use BitShift. No, I've never used that ever, and I can always just use the times multiplier for any time I need to multiply two numbers in my code base.
Oh man, okay. I think that was it for the question from the chat. I honestly didn't have a whole lot of feedback. I think you did fantastic on this question overall. As you said, there are little things like variable names, for example, the use of yellow and green and character dot character, but not the kind of things that I would really heavily ding you on. This is another one of those times when, like, for me, it would have been a strong yes, and I would just, to make it seem like you're not superhuman, I would write some nitpicking feedback at the bottom of the interview. So yeah, for me, this was a big thumbs up, and annoyingly another hire. So that's like what, 4 in a row now. One of these days, I'm going to catch you out.
We'll do a reverse too. I'm actually curious. I haven't seen you interview in a while, so would love to see it. Yeah,
cool. I need some practice first.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, do we have time for another quick question? One has just come up.
Sure. Yeah. Let's make it very quick. But I gotta sign off.
Okay. Last question from Peruvian Idol. Have you ever been mid-interview and realized you no longer wanted the job?
Yeah. Yes, I've done that before. Like, yeah. I mean, like, I barely wanted the job after the Yahoo job after they asked me this stupid bit shift question. Like, that wasn't the only stupid question they asked me during that interview process.
Well, it was Yahoo, so you know.
There was one other question where, like, I looked up the answer later, and someone had written like a dissertation on it. It was like some like crazy programming problem. Like, it's just like, why are you asking me this? It's like, just it's so it's such a flex for the interviewer, but. You know, yeah. I wanted to break into like kind of big tech, and so I took the job anyway. But yes, at that point I was like, I'll just do this to get this on my resume. Yeah. What about you, James?
Hey, worked out in the end. The worst. Well, actually, no. Trying to think. When I was first trying to find jobs, and I applied to one which was I can't remember what it's called. I probably shouldn't say the name anyway. But they were looking for a front-end engineer. And they sent me a take-home exercise, which was to write how I would use AI and machine learning to diagnose health conditions from selfies. I was like, well, I don't really know, but like, you know, I'm really desperate for a job, so I'm going to do it anyway. And I wrote like 3 pages long, sent it back to them, and the response from the recruiter was, "Oh, sorry, we sent you the wrong interview packet. Can you do this problem instead?" I can't even remember what it was. I just like,
yeah, that's it.
Away
That's it for that.
I got a job at Wealthfront. So, yeah.
That's it for that process.
The struggle is real when you're trying to find that first job, honestly.
I got a strong no hire from Peruvian Idol on my CSS. I agree. I wouldn't have hired me based on that CSS either. But yeah, cool. My microservices, how I scale my API. Yeah, like I think that happens quite often. Tech Rally. So Tech Rally says apply to front end position. And I asked about microservices. So yeah, it's wild. It's wild the things that people think that they can ask. But cool, yeah. We'll wrap for today. But thank you so much, James. Follow James at JRobinDev on Twitter. I'm generic Mike Shannon at Twitter. And thank you so much, Danny Thompson, and all the other new people who came out today. Really appreciate you being here.
Yeah,
and
Danny,
we'll see.
Shashi, Tech Rally, everyone. Yeah, great to have you here. Fantastic.
All right, thank you so much. Oh yes, Tech Rally says promote front end eval. I'm terrible at promoting front end eval. Find this question on frontendeval.com and find any other, like there's a lot of other front end interview practice questions here. Check it out when you have the time. So it's a great resource for you to practice if you have a front end interview coming up. Thank you, Tech Rally. I'm the worst at this, so I'm gonna get better and it's gonna become more natural. So really appreciate it, and thank you Web Dev Dan for sticking on. Like, it must be like 3 a.m. for you. So appreciate you sticking around. But cool, thanks everyone.
All right, see you next week.
Bye.